Hello student, myself Rajkumar Meena, Assistant Professor in English, Government Arts College, Alva. Today we discuss Chaucer as the father of English poetry. Dryden rightly called Chaucer father of English poetry and held him in highest reverence. He wrote in the first place as he is the father of English poetry, so I hold him in the same degree of veneration as the Greeks held Homer or the Roman Virgils. With him, says Matthew Arnold, is born or real poetry. He is first of the greatest English poet and the earliest of the modern great moderns. He is acclaimed as the first realistic, the first humanist, the first humorist, the first narrative artist, the first great character painter, the first metrical artist in England, and the first architect of English language. Now we just elaborate Chaucer's poetical qualities as per first architect of English language. Ready? It's right to say that Chaucer is the architect of English language. The first requirement for any author to produce any form of literature is to have an effective language. Before Chaucer, English language was not given the honor of being a standard national language. Before him, the native tongue was taken to be the language of uneducated country folk or even the ruffians. Chaucer took the East Midland dialect and reformed, reshaped, and popularized it as a national language. He wrote his famous Canterbury Tale in this language. So, Lowes says Chaucer found his native language tongue a dialect and left in a language. Spencer also called him our well English undefiled. So Chaucer is not only the father of English poetry but also of English language. The first realistic poet, Chaucer was the first realistic, faithfully depicting the social and cultural and religious life of the people of 14th century. The prologue is certainly most valuable as a picture of a contemporary society, and it reflects all the sections of society in his work, Prologue to the Canterbury Tale. Religious pilgrims in small groups and party were really an important practice of social life in those days. His characters are truly realistic portraits. The man and women he depicted in the prologue are as real as they are in the Chaucer's day. In fact, they are universal character belonging to different social classes and professions. Therefore, Dryden rightly called here is God's plenty. In this respect, Blake's observation is final. Of Chaucer's characters, some of the names of the titles are altered by time, but the characters themselves remain unaltered, and consequently, they are synonymous lineaments of universal human life beyond which nature never steps. That the first great poet should have achieved so much in really praiseworthy. Chaucer stands between the two worlds, one dead and the other the struggling to born. He is a modern among the medievals and a medieval among the moderns. Chaucer did not write a regular drama or a regular novel, but his Canterbury Tale contains the seeds of both modern drama and the novel. Therefore, he has been just called the fountain source of the vast stream of English literature. Chaucer found his country without a national literature. He left it in a rich in the possession of a great literature. His Canterbury Tale not only reveals the great production of human genius, but they also influenced in an indirect and a powerful degree his great successors like Shakespeare and Milton. Shakespeare delightfully borrowed from him, and Milton expressed his heartfelt desire to able to write like him. A whole generation of poets in the 15th century imitated him, who came to be known as the Scottish and English Chaucerians. In the Elizabethan age, he was praised and imitated by Spenser, Sidney, Shakespeare. Even in the classical age, he was praised and admired by Dryden and Pope, so much so that his fame never stood higher than it's today. Thus, Chaucer was the first national poet of England. He gave expressions to new hopes and aspirations of the people of his time. He voiced through his poetry that the national unity which had been brought by the fusion of Normans and Anglo-Saxons. He reflects his age in his work. He represents medieval England. The Pope represents the 18th century of and the Tennyson Victorian England. He reflects his century not in fragments but completely. His truthful pictures of his age and country contains truth which is of all time and of all ages. He broke away from the spirits of Italian Renaissance and stood out for modern humanism. It was through him that the free secular spirit of England expressed itself in his work. His wide sympathy, gentle humanity, tolerance, and generosity qualities in his work make him a great modernistic poet. On account of these traits, he was hailed as the morning star of the Renaissance.